We don't know about you guys, but we love a flawed character. We love a character with layers. We love a tough guy who's soft for just that one girl. And while our guy Hank Voight may not fulfill the complete criteria, we love him too. What can we say? We're not haters. So, when this man started turning a leaf, our alarm bells went off. Let's get some answers. First off, let's talk about Hank Voight. Our man Hank Voight of the Chicago Police Department is known for the times he blurs the lines between good and evil. But you've got to admit, the man makes a good villain. The NBC procedural drama has been one of the most watched programs on TV for more than 8 years. The Chicago Fire spin-off has been pretty popular so far, and the fact that they just aired their 10 seasons fall finale speaks for itself. And fans can't deny the fact that the show owes its popularity unquestionably in part to Hank Voight. Jason Beggy's portrayal of the character and his relationship with the criminal justice system stole the hearts of many as the show moved along. Despite being the head of the squad, the man is renowned for his ruthless treatment of criminals, which more often than not falls into the ambiguous gray. Okay, who are we kidding? The man started off as a corrupt officer, and he has frequently blurred the lines between the good and bad, a sequence that seems to draw viewers in the most. Everyone enjoys a little thrill in their life, don't they? Now, let's talk about the show's attempt at redeeming Hank Voight. Okay, yes, Voight was shown as a crooked cop to us all, but later he shared that it was basically his version of being undercover and fostering connections because of his deal with internal affairs. And that marked the beginning of his restoration arc. NBC had a pretty straightforward analogy for addressing Hank Voight from the beginning. There have been fluctuations in his character from naughty to nice, and the man toes the line between being a borderline villain and anti-hero throughout the entire series. But then something comes out to save the day. After all this time, this just reminds us of another character we've heard of. Severus Snape, is that you? You've got to admit that the show really shines in its ability to tell Hank Voight's story when his morals are put to the test, and it reveals the side of him who's prepared to do whatever it takes. And when the head of Chicago PD says whatever it takes, he means it. So Hank gets the job done regardless of the law, and through those ambiguous means, the precinct prospers. Not to be a bad influence or anything, but sounds like a win-win situation for the man. Up next, let's talk about the new Hank. Jason Beggy's character develops as season 10 goes on, and this time around it seems like the guy has changed his ways. He's a goody two-shoes who goes by the book. Now, all that sounds well and good in theory, but the problem is that the audience expects ruthlessness by now. So to them, his persona has lost its charm now, and it doesn't just affect the viewers, but it also seems to be having an impact on the intelligence team as a whole. The unit's strategy for combating crime throughout the city has to change when Hank loses his edge. Plus, the team had obviously gotten used to him playing a bad cop for so long, they had to reevaluate their whole mode of operations. Also, he knew he was never a character to wallow in feelings. Hank was always a hothead, who went smash first and reasoned later, if he ever came to it anyway. If we compare then, the Voight from the previous seasons would have done everything to put Sean, the chief of police's son who's been found to be trafficking minors, behind bars. But the season 10 versions seem to be missing the drive and hell hath no fury attitude. That, coupled with the show's already unexpected resolution for Jay Halstead, meant that the latest season had a number of inconsistencies littered in its storyline. Following up on things, does Hank Voight's redemption arc harm Chicago PD? Our man Voight has always embodied moral ambiguity. The guy uses every weapon in his arsenal to achieve his goals and justifies those tactics whatever way he sees fit. That's the exciting thing about morally gray characters. They make kick-ass content. They're relatable, exciting, and unexpected, keeping the audience on their toes for all time. And perhaps at this stage, it's not the wisest time to try and redeem him by making him less aggressive and less anti-crime. It doesn't help the show, and it doesn't sit well with the audience. Since the man first appeared in Chicago Fire, he's gradually revealed himself to be more than just a simple crooked cop. Whatever you say about the character, you've got to admit that he's fiercely committed to his work, and does whatever it takes to uphold justice and defend the city of Chicago. In his battle to defend victims and strengthen Chicago, the man fears no one, not even the law. But then again, does a badge mean he gets to operate according to his own moral code? While we may not know the answer to that, it's true that the dynamic serves to make things interesting for both the viewers at home and for the affairs of the intelligence unit itself. Adding on to things, you've got to admit that the guy has depth. Over the years and the many seasons, we've had the pleasure of watching Voight evolve. The man completely ticks all of the boxes of a layered and private person, and that's why it's fascinating to watch him unravel. He's become a key component of the procedural show because of his internal struggles that allow viewers the opportunity to judge, relate, and empathize with the character. Hank repeatedly shows that people have flaws and that things are never as black and white as they seem. Through the seasons, his character has experienced emotional struggles, including the tragic death of his kid and the murder of his best friend Al Olinsky. These times gave the audience a chance to get a glimpse of the character's soft side, and to some extent understand why he is the way he is. But it's also true that our troubled Hank was always ready to turn these feelings into fury and get it done. Just part of the charm, isn't it? Now, let's talk about the finale for a bit. It's no secret that the unit has experienced a lot this year with the loss of one of its own when Jay Halstead elected to quit the group and join the military. And like any other driven organization, the squad simply poured into their duties and decided to focus all of their efforts on making the Windy City a safer place. Understandably, Halstead's exit hit Upton the hardest, the man's longtime partner and wife. And that's when she stumbled onto a fresh case involving Sean, the chief of police's son, so she could fill her time. As it turns out, Sean was secretly trafficking young girls. As fate would have it, the law-upholding father came face to face with his law-evading son, and what followed was not a pretty sight. After killing his son, the police chief was eventually apprehended by intelligence, but before they could make an arrest, he committed suicide. We told you it wasn't pretty, but with another twist in events, the chief passed away instantly, while Sean lived. And in a bigger showdown, it became apparent that it was Voight who kept him alive. And it would be the understatement of a century if we say that the intelligence chief's action was unexpected. Up next, let's see what the showrunner has to say. The shocking part of Hank turning a corner was magnified by the way he handled Sean O'Neill's case in the fall finale. In some ways, it wasn't aligned with the ways the show had already set, and in another, it was downright a sucker punch for the audience. Not to mention that in a recent interview with TV Line, Sigan said that Upton and her plans for dealing with Sean's passing influenced Hank's choice. The man, it seems, was conscious of the fact that Haley wouldn't be able to live with it. Perhaps it was a momentary decision, and when she wakes up the next morning, she'll regret it. We've seen it happen before, haven't we? So perhaps it was a rather twisted way to just protect our girl. Initially, we had seen that when Upton learned what Sean was actually up to, she became fixated on solving the case. And Voight had already signed off on her efforts, even if they had to be done covertly, because he was fully aware of how vital it was to the detective to get to the bottom of it, especially considering the other circumstances. And at the end of the day, there was no question that Sean was guilty, and it's entirely possible that the old Voight would have been more brutal in the intelligence's pursuit of him. But this time around, he was noticeably more relaxed. Lastly, what role could Sean play now? Voight's refusal to allow Sean to pass away makes sense in light of Sigan's justification, but it's also possible that he doesn't want Sean to pass away for more significant reasons. Perhaps he sees his own son in the boy. Both men had rough pasts and devoted fathers who would stop at nothing to shield them. This helped him deal with his own remorse for not being able to save Justin, making him more understanding of Sean. We've witnessed this before too, haven't we? So the possibility will always exist. But then again, our guy Hank Voight is extremely reserved with his feelings, so we don't expect him to come out and say anything really. But we'd love to know what you guys think. The show Chicago PD is now in its winter break and won't be back until the start of the new year. And whenever they return, it'll be exciting to see how they finally put this to bed. That's a wrap. Let us know in the comments below what you think of Hank's redemption, yay or nay. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.